Hey guys, it's Ian Lives and welcome back to another movie review video. It's extremely hot, so I have the fan on. I'm sorry if it's loud, and I'm also very sweaty, so I'm sorry if I look unkept. Today we're going to be talking about this new independent comedy drama called I Used to Be Funny. It just became available to rent on digital, and it was in theaters for a super limited run a couple weeks ago. Now, this is a movie that stars Rachel Sennett, which is why it kind of became on my radar. Rachel Sennett is a up-and-coming actress who's been in a lot of notable stuff, like Bodies, Bottoms, Shiva Baby. Those are like her three main things so far. And very soon she's going to be in the SNL movie. She's my favorite up-and-coming actress. I love her to death. I think she's hilarious. I love her style. She's a great actress. And while going through her filmography about a year ago, I came across this movie called I Used to Be Funny. And the premise seemed very easy, like simple, but it could form into a really nice independent movie. And obviously Rachel Sennett had me interested. And at the time, it only premiered at some festivals. A year later, maybe even more, it's finally available. And I watched it, and I thought I would do a review on it. You follow this girl named Sam. And the movie starts off with, she's a comedian, right? She's a comedian, and she's kind of on hiatus. She hasn't done shows in a while. And basically the movie doesn't tell you much. It just tells you that this girl that Sam knows has gone missing, and she's 14 years old. And it shows it on the TV, and she starts freaking out. The plot of the movie is then told in a very interesting way. It's told through flashbacks and kind of told out of place. So as the movie goes on, the more you learn about like what's going on, who is this girl that's going missing. You quickly learn that Sam was a nanny, and she watched this girl, and some stuff went down. So it kind of has a mystery aspect to it. And as I said before, it's also a comedy drama. But to be honest, the comedy is very buried. There's not a lot of comedy here. It's very dark. It's very dry. It's very sad in moments. It's very raw. But I love the dramatic moments. I really do. And the whole mystery aspect, even if it was predictable, which that might have been done on purpose. I don't think it was supposed to be like a whodunit mystery. But the reveal was very devastating. And it tackles some heavy topics. So to move on to the positives that I had with this movie, I really love the look and feel of the movie. It's very independent. It is an independent movie. I keep saying that, but it feels independent. You have the film grain. You have the quirky, cool, different cinematography. You have a great soundtrack, which a lot of people are talking about the soundtrack. It is great. You got Phoebe Bridgers on it. Really cool. But just the style of the film is very in your face. In a good way. There's a great color scheme, great color palettes, great set pieces and scenery. So that was the first positive that I have for it. The other positive is kind of an obvious, but Rachel Sennett devoured this movie. She did fantastic. This is one of her best roles yet. And it's just more proof that she is one of the best doing it right now. She is going to go on to do massive things, and more people need to pay attention to her. She really does a good job at, it's kind of realistic in the sense, because she plays a comedian, right? So she always is doing jokes, she's always funny, she's always quirky, she's always happy, you know. But when this traumatic stuff happens to her, and you see her character just sad in her bedroom, laying down, you know, just sitting in her bed, she still talks to other people the same way that she did. She still jokes around, even though she's sad inside. And you can see the pain, if that makes sense. And I thought that she did phenomenal when it came to that. You can see that she's sad, but she's still joking around and being comedic. You also have other performances in here from Caleb Hearson. Not familiar with him. I think he's a a real life comedian, but he was really funny in here. He kind of held some of the best jokes because, again, there's not much humor in here, especially not as much as you would think. But he really does. He kind of is the comedic relief, especially when it comes to the serious scenes. When it gets really serious and they're dropping all this stuff on you, he comes in with a one-liner that's pretty funny. So I really enjoyed him in the film. Also, Sabrina Jalise, she plays Paige, which is Sam's best friend in the movie. And she's also a comedian, so is the guy that I talked about before. They're all comedians, and again, they all have their moments. The movie basically focuses around Olga Petsa's character. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Brooke. Brooke is the girl that goes missing. And again, she did pretty great. I mean, she's young. She plays a 14-year-old in the movie. I'm not sure how old she is in real life, but I thought that she did great in the role. She captured the emotion of like a teenager who a lot of stuff is happening to them in their life. A lot of traumatic stuff is getting dumped on them, and they do the classic thing. You know, they go through the classic emotions, and they're, you know, drinking, all that stuff, and it was very believable and realistic. It really was. So again, I thought she did great. There's also a bunch of other actors that I thought did fantastic, but I'm not going to dwell on it too much. The mix of genres are really nice. They're very refreshing, because I was expecting like a full-on comedy is what I was expecting going into it. But immediately, the tone of the movie is very, again, as I said before, raw. It's very dry. The movie's extremely dramatic, but not to an extent where it feels like over dramatic, to where it's like kind of silly and laughable. It's like a very realistic dramatic. I wouldn't say that you would like the humor if you're not into like the Gen Z humor, whatever you want to call it. Rachel Sennett kind of plays this character a lot. Maybe that's just how she is. Her character talks in slang, you know, like the Gen Z terms, all that is in here, and her comedy stand-up sets are all about men, which what she says about men is true, but it might not be like a message that people are super interested in watching. But that is kind of like what her sets are about on stage. And honestly, that's what the whole movie's about. Is it's not really about, because I don't want to spoil the review, but it's not 100% about like, oh, men suck. It's not like that. It's just a message. It's hard to explain. It's like a message about how like women deal with this stuff, you know? That's what I got from it. It's hard to explain, really, but there is a lot of deeper meanings and messages to it. Moving on to my cons, which there's not a lot of cons, to be honest, but my one major one is the pace of the movie. It runs at 1 hour and 45, and I won't lie when I say that I was like 1 hour and 10 minutes in, and I was like, it could end here and I'd be fine, because it moves at a very slow pace, and it feels like it's taking forever. It feels like you're already 1 hour in when you're only 30 minutes in. It just feels like that because, again, it's a lot. It's very dramatic, but also the pace is pretty slow. And also a lot of the movie kind of follows the same formula, as I said before. You get some of the present events, and you get to know these characters. And then it does a flashback, where you're in these flashbacks, and then it goes back to the present, and then it goes back to a flashback, back to present, back to flashback. And while it's doing that, it doesn't completely feel like you're learning anything. It doesn't feel like the plot is going anywhere until about 1 hour in, when the ball really starts to get rolling, and the flashbacks actually tie into stuff. I still enjoy the flashbacks, and I enjoy the slower pace toward the start, but it just felt like it was taking too long to get to the point, if that makes sense. So that was definitely a major flaw. Also, the flashbacks, it was hard to know sometimes. Not every time, but sometimes it was hard to know when you were in a flashback and when you were not. Because the only reason that they signal that they're in a flashback is this little high-pitched sound effect that they use. which I didn't pick up on until like the fourth flashback. So I was like, is this happening now or is this happening back then? It was a little confusing at moments. I'm trying to think of any other flaws. I really think that that's it. I Used to Be Funny is overall a very heartwarming, tragic story. There's a lot of hard topics. It's a lot on you. It's very heavy. But it definitely has its comedic dry moments that I really enjoyed. And again, Rachel Sennett. This is just more proof that she is definitely someone to protect, someone to keep your eyes on. She's going to do huge things. She already has. Bottoms was a huge success last year, and it was one of my favorite movies of last year as well. So, again, just keep your eyes on Rachel Sennett. Check out some of her movies if you haven't. I think she's great. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Might be a little too high, but that's just where I'm at. Because I only really had one minor complaint, and that was the flashbacks felt like they weren't progressing the story enough. And maybe they happen a little too often. But other than that, I thought this movie was just fantastic. It's such a easy watch. Well, easy watch. There's some, again, hard topics. I keep repeating myself, but it definitely lived up to the hype of taking over a year to get released. A lot of these movies that premiere at Sundance or South by Southwest take forever to get released. So some of them are finally getting released, like I Used to Be Funny and Am I Okay with what's her name, that just came out a couple weeks ago, which I also thought was great. That was my review. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell. It helps a lot. Follow the Discord server in the link in the description below. Follow my Instagram at ianlives_. Follow my Letterboxd at wehateian. And I absolutely love you guys. I'm very sweaty, so I kept losing my train of thought. Hopefully I did a good job reviewing this movie, and I do highly recommend it. I'll see you guys next time.